like Jewish people have owned the black voice. A Jewish person could repeatedly f me on a deal. It's just them. It's just the businessman. It's not the people. It's not nobody else. But if a Jewish person does good, all of their people eat.
All right, folks, welcome back. I'm so excited to see y'all. Today we're going to have a great discussion about Ye West, all right, formerly known as Kanye West. And the way I like to explain this is today you're going to learn about the constitutional rights of free speech and the limits of free speech and kind of the jurisprudence behind the First Amendment. That could be a boring topic, right? We're going to talk about the jurisprudence of free speech today. Okay, but it gets a lot more exciting when we do it, when we talk about Kanye West. All right, so let's do it. Oh, first, man, I had a sinus infection last week and I was out for a few days as well. I'm telling you, I think the only thing I liked about COVID is that people stopped shaking hands during that time. And I thought it was the greatest thing ever. Now, when I go to meetings or conference or whatever, everyone is shaking each other's hands. I hate it with a passion. I think that so many germs get passed that way. One time I went to the bathroom, I saw this guy, in the bathroom taking a leak, and he was on his iPhone, right? And then afterwards, he washed his hands. I saw him, but he did not wash his iPhone, right? So I was thinking, what was the point of even washing your hands at that point, right? So anyway, okay. So let's talk some legal. I did have one person call me also. Actually, I had a few people call me, run it by my lawyer, and one that was an interesting one. So my friend, he let me use his first name, Pete, his mom lives at the house that was his grandparents' house. So his grandparents passed away. His grandfather passed away say 10 years ago, and his grandmother passed away, say 3 years ago. And his mom is still living in that house. And his mom's brother, so the uncle, told the mom, all right, you have 3 months, then you got to move out because we want to sell the house. And so my buddy Pete asked me, can they just do that, kick her out of the house? And then I said, well, let's see. Let's figure out who owns the house. And it turns out the house is owned by a trust that his grandparents set up. So the next thing is the answer to the question, Pete, would be we need to take a look at the trust. Okay, so we can make a request to take a look at the trust because in the trust, right, this is why setting up your estate planning is so important. And the trust will have like what to do after a lot of times it'll be, let's say the mom and dad, they do what's called a living trust. And it says something like, okay, we have this house and the house will stay, like let's say the dad dies first and the mom will live, she could live there for the rest of her life, blah, blah, blah. And then, after she dies, or they call the surviving spouse. So maybe the mom dies first, right? So the surviving spouse could stay in that house for the rest of their life. And then after the surviving spouse dies, then the house can be sold right away and split between the kids. Or it could say, that's usually how it says it, but it could say something like, then the house, can stay for another 10 years and any of the kids could live there for free. Or it could say, the house goes to this kid, whatever, the bank account goes to that kid, blah, blah, blah. So the answer to that question will be, I got to look at the trust. So maybe next week, by then, maybe I should have the trust and then I'll give you the answer to that, okay? All right, now let's talk about, that's the thing. That's why lawyers, we say our favorite answer, well, can my mom get kicked out? It depends, right? And that's what it depends on. All right. Ye West, okay, formerly known as Kanye West. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Let me pronounce it right. Ye West, short for Kanye. I think that's how he got it. That's kind of cool, doing just the last little syllabus of the first name. So my name, so if I went Joseph, I would just be Uff. It's called me Uff instead of Joseph. All right. So we're gonna see. He's done a good job, Kanye West, of giving us something interesting to discuss. If you want to learn about free speech, let's just talk Kanye West for a while, okay?
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
So at first he wore this shirt. It got him a lot of publicity. It said "White lives matter, okay? And for obvious reasons, the movement has been obviously controversial, right? Black lives matter, white lives matter, all lives matter, blue lives matter, for cops. Oh my God, man. Okay. One thing we've never seen, lawyers' lives matter, right? I don't think we'll ever see that one. Okay. So he wore that. And then after that, there was a lot of negative publicity. And so around that time, he had 4 stadium concert deals at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, and they canceled him, okay? So he was very upset about that. And then he did what I think was a very bad idea, all right? He sent out this tweet around that time. Let's see, Kanye, how can you do this? I'm a bit sleepy tonight, but when I wake up, I'm going DEFCON 3. DEFCON 3 on Jewish people. How could you say that? The funny things, I am actually can't be anti-Semitic because black people are also actually Jew also. You guys have toyed with me and tried to blackball anyone who ever opposes your agenda. Okay, so here's the story. So we're going to test the free speech. Right after that, Twitter banned him completely. They locked his account and they basically just kicked him out, right? So, and obviously Twitter has done this before with Donald Trump and, all sorts of people, okay? So that's the first order of business is can Twitter do that? The answer is yes, okay? This is why Twitter can ban him for good. First, it's in the terms and conditions. If you say anything that's threatening or hate speech or likely to cause violence and things like that, then you could be banned from Twitter. And here it's clear, he does. It is pretty. God, what is he saying? I'm a bit sleepy tonight. I thought when I read that, I thought it was going to say, so I might not be making any sense. But no, he says, but when I wake up, I'm going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people. So it's obviously hate speech. It's obviously inciting and all of the above. And Twitter can definitely ban him. It's on the terms and services that he agreed to. And it's also that Twitter is a private company and it's not a governmental entity. And the reason why that makes an important distinction is, and this is the first thing with free speech jurisprudence, is that it's ordinarily the case that it only applies when there's what's called a state action. State action means any sort of government, city government, state government, federal government. Only the government cannot take away someone's speech, okay? And only the government cannot limit speech. That's kind of the first rule. Now, as lawyers always say, it ain't gonna, there's like 10 million exceptions and there's another 10 million exceptions to those exceptions. And obviously it can't ever be that simple, because if it was that simple, fudge, what would you need lawyers for to complicate everything, okay? All right, now he then went on, okay, but so Twitter can win that one. All right. And I've done other episodes where I've kind of like gone in detail just about Twitter itself. And I'll post a link below when they banned Donald Trump from Twitter. So I'll post it below on that episode. Okay. Then he goes on this show, Kanye West, and he just goes on and on. He just starts ranting and things that are just despicable, right?
Like Jewish people have owned the black voice, or doing a movie on a Jewish platform like Disney, or being signed to a Jewish basketball team.
As if it could just stop there, man. Stop there. No, he just kept going. And things like, the Jewish business secrets, going on to that old, stereotype that they're controlling the world or the business or the conspiracy over businesses.
I don't know about Jay giving up Jewish business secrets.
Kanye West. And then probably the worst thing I think he said is when
the Jewish community, especially in the music industry, they'll take, in the entertainment period, they'll take one of us, the brightest of us, right, that can really feed a whole village, and they'll take us and milk us till we die.
So that is when everything hits the fan, right? After this, his talent agency canceled him. His Adidas dropped him. Now, this Adidas thing is a ginormous deal. And he gets something like $200 million a year from Adidas. That's a lot of freaking money. When I was in 5th grade, my good friend Sean, okay, I'm not going to say his last name, all right, you know who you are. He told me Adidas stands for All Day I Dream About Sex, okay? Adidas, all day I dream about sex. And get this, I actually thought that was the case in 5th grade. And it wasn't until I think college that I realized, wait a minute, it doesn't stand for that. Okay, so Adidas then drops him after this, and all these other companies dropped him after this. Now, I'm gonna say this issue of free speech is not as simple as like I said, there's all these exceptions and counter exceptions to the free speech jurisprudence. Unlike Twitter, this one is a little different here because of reasons I'll go into. It's not as simple as once you're a private company, you could do whatever you want and you could limit people's speech as much as you want. All right. There's tons and tons of rules about that, and kind of when a company could go wrong, and if Adidas could go wrong. Now, the first thing is if the contract says they can never cancel him, even if he says anything wrong, then that's not a free speech issue. That's just a breach of contract issue. If the contract says they can cancel him anytime if he says something, then it's what's called a free speech issue. Just because it's in the contract, if it's with an employer or some company, that's sponsoring him, just because it's in the contract, it does not mean they're allowed to, cancel the contract because of what he says. All right. So let me explain what I mean here, that private companies can't always do whatever they want. A while ago, I did one episode. If you take a look at this uniform. Okay. So the baseball teams during Gay Pride Month in June, a lot of the teams were wearing, like a rainbow or something, some sort of gay pride, gay support thing on their uniforms. So in Tampa Bay, the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, right? There was a few of the players that said, listen, we're not going to wear it. We're not going to wear the freaking rainbow on our jersey because, although we have nothing against gay people, we just don't, our religious belief is that we're not going to openly, that's kind of no pun intended on the word openly, openly encourage it. This is what they said. Because of our religious beliefs and the Christianity beliefs, we're not going to openly encourage homosexuality, and we're not going to wear the rainbow. Okay, now let's say and then I did an episode. I discussed that case in detail. Imagine if the baseball team fired all of them for doing that. I think that would have been, that's a questionable one because at that point, the company it is a private company, so there's no state action, right? I said, free speech only if the government is kicking people out, but no, then I said there's 10 million exceptions. I don't think it would have been a very, very easy case for the baseball team. And, coincidentally, they did not fire all of them, right? They didn't do that. But thankfully, there's been cases that, we could test it out here. In Texas, there was a teacher that got fired because she was wearing a mask, and the mask said Black Lives Matter. And she was told to stop wearing it. She kept wearing it, something to that effect. And then she got fired, okay? And there was 20 or so workers at Whole Foods, all right? Whole Foods. My friend Aziz, he's a big Whole Foods fan. He loves eating there. And I guess it's pretty good food. There's not one by my house, so I don't go there that often, but it was a good grocery store. Anyway, so there was about 20 people that got fired for wearing Black Lives Matter, like some sort of emblem or button or something or, whatever, right? Logo that was on their shirt, and they got fired. And so we're testing free speech, right? They sued Whole Foods saying, well, it's like a racial issue. It's a free speech issue. Your whole, people have to work, right? And in most jobs, 90% of them are not in the government. And so people have to work, and by limiting it at the work and canceling out this Black Lives Matter, it's infringing on our free speech. The courts rejected the employee's argument, so they appealed it, and then the appellate courts rejected the employee's arguments too. I don't know if it'll ever go to the Supreme Court. If it did, I am certain that the Supreme Court would also deny their request. Now, why? I mean, so an employer can say, you can't wear the Black Lives Matter, but as your lawyer, right? It never is that easy, because the employer better have a very good policy or something in effect, because it has to be like understandable why or when, or there has to have been some sort of warning, things like that. But the reason why I'm saying it's never going to be that easy, because what if the employer, what if other people that wore something like, I don't know, All Lives Matter or whatever, right? They didn't get fired. Do you see what I'm saying about that? Really be a good policy, because then, the employer would have to say, well, it's our free speech, and gosh darn it, it is our free speech. We want to say all lives matter. Right. And then the employees that were wearing Black Lives Matter, they're fired. That's our free speech as Whole Foods. That's not what they said. But I'm saying, let's just say that was the case. That would have been a tougher one. Right. Because then you're having them kind of like trying to impose, their kind of speech on the employees. Like it's kind of getting a little dicey. All right. Or what if like just for the heck of it, like some restaurant, they made all their employees wear, I don't know, what would be, whatever, like I love Jesus. All right. So every employee just has to wear this shirt. If you want to work at this restaurant, you have to wear a shirt. Our uniform shirt says, I love Jesus Christ. Right. And it's a new policy. And some people don't want to wear it because whatever, they're not, I love Jesus Christ. They don't want to wear it for religious reasons. Okay. I think that company might lose if they force people to wear that. Do you see what I'm saying? And then fire the people that don't wear that. And it's kind of hard to explain the difference, right? It's like forcing them to wear something as opposed to forcing them to just not wear any logos, right? So if I was to force them to wear that type of shirt and then fire them if they didn't, I think they would have a good free speech case against me. All right. The other thing, like the teacher who got fired for wearing Black Lives Matter, right? What if she wore, like around, in mid-January, around Martin Luther King's birthday, right? She wore a pin, Martin Luther King pin or something. Imagine if she got fired for that, right? Now, what would be, I don't know if a court would agree with the employer on that, because if the employer had some sort of thing that said, you can't wear, whatever, shirts with, anything that has Martin Luther King on it, like, well, but then somebody else comes in and they wear, whatever, a Derek Jeter jersey or something, right? I don't think, the school, even if it's a private school, I don't think that they would win that case. Do you see what I'm saying? And this is why, it's like, I'm not even saying this with 100% certainty because that's how it is with law. Like there's all these like gray areas in it and close calls, but it's certainly not the case that a private entity can say and do whatever the heck they want. That is absolutely not the case, right? So in that particular case, if they got fired, they're wearing a Martin Luther King pin, but all these other people wear, whatever, Derek Jeter jerseys or whatever other jerseys or whatever pictures of other people, and they don't get fired. I think that that private company would have a lot of problems defending that case. All right. Now back to Adidas firing Kanye West. Okay. So here, let's test it out. It's something they fired him. Oh man, this is like $1 billion. Like they were making like at least $2 billion of sales selling his Yeezy shoes. Here's the picture of a Yeezy shirt. Or a shoe. I have seen somebody wear it, and they said it was the most comfortable pair of shoes they've ever had. So okay, great. And Adidas sells millions of these, right? And they make billions of dollars doing this. So them firing Kanye West. So let's say he sues Adidas. Now, are they within their rights to fire him? They would have the position that he is spreading hate and that he is lying, spreading hate, inciting this violence. And that there's even evidence of it, like people in Los Angeles, started carrying billboards, over freeway passes, supporting Kanye West's derogatory comments about Jewish people. So Adidas would have that position. And I predict based on the law that Adidas would win. Okay. So that Kanye West, so even though Adidas is a private company, they're not always going to win by, censoring an employee's free speech. Or here, he's not technically an employee. They had a contract that he was like an independent contractor and they were licensing his logo rights and yada, 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 right? It wasn't like he's a W-2 employee for them. Now, let's say it was something different. Let's say Kanye West, instead of, saying what he said, let's say he comes out and says, whatever. I love Buddhist people, all right? And Buddhist people are cool, whatever. Or I believe Buddhist people, their theology is awesome, right? And then Adidas says, well, that, you're fired, okay? I think here we have a big problem because at that point, we're crossing free speech and a freedom of, religious beliefs and whatnot. And in that particular case, I believe Adidas will lose. All right. And it doesn't matter if the contract says it. Like I can't have a contract with my employees that says, if you become Buddhist, you're fired. Or if you say anything that's pro-Buddhism, you're fired. Right. Even if it's in the contract, even if they sign it and then I fire someone for it, I could get sued. And I think I would rightfully lose that particular case. So it's kind of what I've said in the past to people. It's kind of weird. They shouldn't call it free speech. They should just call it as long as it's okay with most of the people speech, then it's free, right? Because, why would it be okay, for him to say, it's not okay for him to say, DEFCON 3 on Jewish people, the Jewish people control this, control that. But if he said something like, I love Buddhism, why can Adidas kind of kick him out for some things, but then Adidas, that's a private company, cannot kick him out for other things, okay? And I think it's because it's kind of like the speech that's favorable, and nice and kind of like not too shocking, right? That then the courts will, protect it. But if there's speech that's hate and whatnot, then there's been precedent that said, that type of speech is not protected. Okay. It's that old example. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. It's kind of like if you're causing hatred or violence, then they could what's it called? They could censor it. Okay. Now, let's go on. In that same interview, and it was something with the drunk champions or something. Here's another piece of advice. As your lawyer, don't drink alcohol and record yourself. Okay, because chances are you're going to say some dumb things, and you may even say really, really dumb things. So for no reason at all, then Kanye West picked on George Floyd. How can you pick on George Floyd? This poor guy died when a police officer, freaking put his knee on the guy's neck for 8 or 9 minutes and killed him. And it was horrible, and it was caught on someone's phone, and it was the most miserable thing, right? So what does Kanye West say about that in this interview?
I watched the George Floyd documentary that Candace Owens put up, and the day when he died, he said a prayer for 8 minutes. They hit him with the fentanyl. If you look, the guy's knee wasn't even on his neck like that.
So let me get this straight, Kanye. What we all saw did not happen, according to Kanye. His position is that the cop did not kneel on the guy's neck, and that if you watch the video, you could see him not kneeling on the guy's neck. Right? And that he said that the real reason that George Floyd died is that he was on drugs and he was using fentanyl, and that was why he died. It was nothing to do with the guy's knee on his neck. That I don't agree with, but whatever. I mean, is it free speech? Is it not? Now we're into another part of free speech jurisprudence. Then the George Floyd family came out and, through their lawyers said, we are going to sue Kanye West for defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress. And all right. Here we go. Some more free speech laws. If you lie about a clear fact, you could be liable for defamation. All right. And what I mean by that, so you do not have the free speech right to lie about a fact. Okay. So even if he's not causing violence, okay, you still cannot lie about a fact. And what I mean by that is, so he is saying that it is clear that didn't happen. Okay. Now, so the reason why I'm saying it's lie about a fact as opposed to, you can't lie about an opinion, because theoretically an opinion, it's not correct, it's not incorrect, right? So if you said the opinion, I hate the Run It By My Lawyer podcast. I think it's boring. I cannot sue you for that. So go ahead and say it, right? And because it's an opinion, right? But if you said something like, something as Joe Samo's podcast lasts more than an hour each episode, right? So that's a fact that you're asserting and you're lying about it. Do you see what I mean? Because it's provable that it's not correct. Okay, so that's kind of the first rule about defamation. So the George Floyd family, they want to, in essence, just suing him and recovering money is the same thing as censoring, okay, in terms of the law, because it's, like I said, I mean, they're going to get money out of him or sue him for money. It's the same thing as saying, to other people, don't say these type of things, right? And not just the George Floyd, but in general, these kind of lies about provable facts, right? So who's going to win that lawsuit if they sue him? Now, first of all, there's this weird rule. Okay, so George Floyd obviously is dead. So it's not like you can, he's not a plaintiff, so to speak, right? So it would have to be, his family. And they would have to take the position that Kanye West lied. And there's this law, it's called intentional infliction of emotional distress. All right. It's the lawyerly way of saying What an a-hole, all right? Why did the a-hole do such an a-hole thing? I wish they just called it that. A-hole being an a-hole, all right? That's what that means, intentional infliction of emotional distress, all right? And so let's go over this in detail here, because they're claiming they're going to sue him for $250 million, all right? And here's this press release, which I don't understand. First, the lawyers, I don't know why they would like do a press release saying we're going to sue him. I mean, why don't just sue him or don't sue him? All I could think of is maybe they're testing the getting the feel for the market, or getting public opinion on their side. And obviously this is the great time to strike because everyone's mad at Kanye West, right? So it's a great time to do it. All right. So this is their position. What they're saying is, George Floyd's daughter is devastated that this guy, Kanye West, is lying about how her dad died, right? And that he did that just to upset her and for no other reason other than an a-hole being an a-hole, right? And that it's a provable fact and it's a lie, because if it was true, then he's allowed to say it, even if it causes emotional distress, okay? Because you're not an a-hole if you're telling the truth, so to speak. Okay, so now what is the free speech rule here? Can she win? Can she not win? I think that it's potentially, right? It's a gray zone. I'm going to rule in her favor. I think she could win this one, okay? I don't think she'll get $250 million, right? It would be something a lot less, but I think she could win because he definitely lied. He was definitely wrong. It is clear that it would cause a lot of strife for her, right? And the free speech jurisprudence does not protect a clear lie about a provable fact, right? So I think she could win, but gosh, that's the fear that a lot of legal cases cite is that we don't want to adjudicate cases that will have they call it a chilling effect on free speech. Because theoretically, if Kanye West gets sued by the George Floyd family and loses, then the chilling effect on free speech is that a lot of other people will be like, oh, let's not say it. Like, let's shut our mouths, right? Because, even though we think he was killed this other way or blah, 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 we don't want to, we don't want to say anything because we don't want to get sued, right? So that's the kind of theory about the chilling. So the court system has to balance that chilling effect on free speech. That nonetheless, though, I think this was so incorrect and so hurtful and just so freaking stupid to say that I think she would win that case. Now, here's a good example of defamation gone wrong.
Title of your sex tape.
Okay, so Alex Jones, this is the most horrible thing a guy could do, he did, all right? I mean, if Alex Jones got run over by a truck, I would be worried that the truck, got scratched or dented. That's about it, because how did this guy do what he did? 20 first grade kids were killed and 6 teachers were killed in Sandy Hook Elementary School. And obviously the parents and the families, obviously they lost their family members, teachers, their kids. And this guy, Alex Jones, goes on and says it didn't happen, that these people were crisis actors, that, it's all fake. It's all this big conspiracy. Again, it didn't happen and whatnot. And it was so bad that the parents of these victims were, like people would yell at them or cuss at them or threaten them for making all this up and lying about it. Like, this is after their kid was killed, right? So Alex Jones then makes the same claim about this free speech. It's like, hey, I think it was a conspiracy. I didn't think it was real. I thought they were crisis actors, and it's going to chill free speech if we stop that, right? I mean, there's all these people, the 9/11 truthers, they're called, right? And they're saying, similar things. Not that 9/11 didn't happen, but there's different conspiracies or different, who bombed the World Trade Center. It wasn't the plane, it was a bomb inside and blah, 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 right? So the theory is the law doesn't want to chill that kind of free speech because maybe something one day will come out of it, or some sort of good theory will come out of it, blah, blah, blah. But we balance that with something like, with Alex Jones, his speech was so blatantly wrong, like factually, and it was just stupid. And the fact that, he did it to make money, and the fact that, he kept pursuing it, and he was so adamant against it, and all of the above, right? So the jury awarded the family about $1 billion. And my understanding is it could get more, they could add to it. So now he filed an appeal. I don't think he's gonna win the appeal. I mean, other than the fact that everybody hates him. The speech was so wrong and so blatantly, false and blah, 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 right? So he would lose. And I think the same thing if Kanye West does get sued by George Floyd's family. I think Kanye West would get sued, okay? Would lose, I mean. So there you have it. Free speech, okay? Be careful what you say, all right? If you're going to make a factual allegation, just go check it out before you make it. Or better yet, before you make any factual assertions, run it by my lawyer. Feel free. I wish Kanye West would have sent this tweet and all this other stuff to me, because I would have said, listen, dude, why don't we take some of your money and go on a fun trip and shut the freak up for a while, okay? And then come back in a few months. All right. Thank you so much, folks. If you have anything you want to add or comments, I love hearing from all of you. Please comment below, and I'll see you folks next week.